Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching GEEKCASTER, everything sci-fi fantasy. We have our special guest in the studio, Daniel Myricks. Did I say it correct?
Myricks, but that was cool though.
Myricks. And of course, we have the one and the only Dayveonne Bussey. I'm Michael. You're watching GEEKCASTER, everything sci-fi fantasy and geek culture. Okay, so this is part 2. We were talking about a few films. We left off at The Invitation. And Daniel, you were saying that when it comes to films, it is not just the responsibility of the director and the writer, but sometimes it's the actors to blame if it
so
falls
pretty much
flat.
Everybody.
Right.
So there we go. So that's where we're at on that. So, and I also want to talk a little bit about Flux Fusion a little bit. Daniel, this is your company. As a content creator, you decided to create another avenue that people can go to get their stuff out there. Tell us a little bit about Flux Fusion.
I love to talk about Flux Fusion. Okay. Flux Fusion was like I said, I was a filmmaker, right? And I also dealt with funding of the films. People go to, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, stuff like that. But since I was in that Hollywood realm, I would try to get, regular funding. And then every time I come in there, the guy says, "Oh man, your movie sounds awesome. We love it." If they didn't want to buy it, the first thing they said is, "Okay, if we invest in this film, how are you going to sell it?" And I would say, "Well, the money that's in the budget will get the distribution and everything else and stuff like that." And the directors, not the directors, but the people putting up the money and investors would say, "Well, we would like to see the distribution first." All right. And I'm like, okay. So then I would go to distribution, say, "Here, we got this movie here. We're ready to get funded. The investors would like to know about the distribution before, they would put up the money." And then the distribution would say, okay, who are your actors? Are they bankable? Stuff like that. And then they hit you with, "Oh, by the way, we would fund it, but then you would have to pay us back, and then you'll get your profit." And in the industry, that's called a negative pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they'll fund it, and then you're sitting back 2 years, 3 years, waiting for that money to recoup, depending on how the movie played out. And then and then the investors will get mad because they wanted to be in it, but they wanted, So then I said, you know what? How do I get around this? Took me 5 years. I talked to everyone. And believe it or not, I was where you are today. I was 5 years ago. There was a company called Mogulus. And Mogulus allowed...
I remember them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And Mogulus allowed you to have your own channel, and you could do whatever you want with it.
Right.
So if you created content, you could schedule it, you could do everything.
Right.
And it was called Mogulus. Livestream bought Mogulus, and then, that's why it was called Livestream. So you did the same thing, you bought it, but they did it differently. They did it more like what you're doing now. You would do something live, and
Mogulus was amazing. I was so upset when they got rid of that. It was so much. It was ahead of its time, and it really gave creators a lot more control than what's out there now. And it's amazing because the technology was so much further than what they gave us. They gave us crap, really. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. and so I've been in this space for a while.
Right.
and then because live stream brought me on, and I was doing the same thing, but it's not the same. Mm-mm. Because after people see it in the theater, or some people's stuff never make it to the theater. All right. And so I said, you know what? There's got to be a way. And I'm telling you how it morphed. I started talking to the theater chains. And you know when you go to the theater and you got that whole thing in the beginning? It's called the first 30s. Mm-hmm. You could buy time on the first 30s. So I would make a short 15, 20 minutes and actually buy time and put it on the first 30s. I would make trailers and put it on the first 30s. And they liked this so much, they were like, yo, if you could do this on a bigger scale, we'll give you a theater. So they allowed me to set up red carpet events. We could use the parking lots, we can use the concessions, and I could bring people into their theater and we could watch movies. And all I had to do was bring them a USB with the movie on it. And then I said, okay, so now we got theatrical. Now, with everything else, people, like, you're in a good spot because I heard you say that you're on cable and everything else, stuff like that, right? So that means people who are home, they can watch it on their televisions, so, they don't, because there's a lot of elderly people and all that, like my mom, she's like, oh my God, but how do you see this? How do you make this work? Because my sister has a makeup line in Sephora.
Now, wait a minute. So, now, I have to, because the elephant in the room, and I know fans are going to be mad if I don't push this. How do you make money with your network? Boom, I got content, and boom, right. What's the?
Because that was the part I was getting to. Mm-hmm. Because if you did, oh Lord, it was calling me. When hang on.
And we are live.
But it happens. Like, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, when you do streaming networks,
people need to shut their phones off.
No, it's awesome to have streaming networks. It's awesome to put your product in, but you also got to be careful of what he said, because you don't know, somebody may hassle you and say, okay, we're going to put your product out, but you're going to have to pay us in order to get your money.
Okay, so Oni, we have a half an hour show, so let's try to get this as fast as possible. How does Fuse work?
This is going to be real quick. Because, I want people to make their money and stuff like that, I set it up where you could put your film as a pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. You can do your film as a subscription. Mm-hmm. So there's ways that I have that you can make your money on the platform. Basically, like I said, pay-per-view. Like, for example, because we got a half hour, then if you look at this is the platform. This is what it looks like, and right now these are the channels that I have, on there, and people can actually go in and, like this right here, Keys and Cuffs. This is a movie that I just got put up, and it's a pay-per-view. So if you was to click on it right now, it'll say, pay for the pay-per-view. This is an independent project, and so you can actually see, with the pay-per-view, or if you had tons of stuff, I can give you your own channel, and people could subscribe to your channel. So, so if you, let's say you got 10 movies, I can give you a channel and people can subscribe starting at $5.99, and they subscribe to your channel per month, and they can watch whatever you create. And if you one of those creators that create constantly, you know, you can have that, that ability to, you know, sell your product.
Now, are you still creating films? Are you still creating your own content?
Yeah, I create my own content. I have to be careful with my budgeting, because one of the films that I had set up for funding cost, was budgeted at $78 million. And so now I gotta redo it so I can bring the budget down, because now I don't have to worry about distribution. So I could probably do the film for 20, stuff like that, because now I can control distribution, and that was the reason why I made Flux.
Nice.
Gotcha. So basically, so at the end of the day, layman terms, once you're done with the content, you could do something with it.
You could sell it.
Gotcha. So you got that kitty, so you could check out as this is a option for your content.
Right.
Right. You can sell it. Let me see. If I go to Flux Films, okay, let me set that up. These are some of the films that I have up there. And you see the second one, it says, it looks like You, something like that.
Yes, I see it. That's the third one.
Yeah. That was written by a woman who, it was supposed to go on Amazon, and Amazon kind of like didn't trust it because the title is You Hurt Me, But Now I'm Healed. And it was about, and it was about domestic violence, but not where you're showing people getting beat up. It talked to different women on how they overcame the domestic violence. But Amazon didn't look at it to see what it was, so they denied it. So she came to me, and this was the pastor, and I was like, well, you're a pastor. You wouldn't make anything that would be so bad. So I aired it. It's been up for almost a year now.
Cool. How's it doing?
It's doing pretty good. I told her, I said, you could have, you could have like put it out there and made money on it, but she's a pastor. She didn't think of stuff like that. So I understood where she was coming from, but it's doing good. Because just so you know, and I do this real quick.
Yeah, because we got two other films we got to talk about real quick before we go. Yeah. So yeah,
but this is gonna be real quick. Because once I show it to you, then I can stop. If people wanted to know where we're seen, all right, this is our the platform per se. Everywhere that's lit up, that's what we're seeing all around the world. We're seeing everywhere, all around the world. This is the worldwide platform, with the exception of, if this area here lights up, that's Antarctica. If it lights up, I'm wondering who's living there that got cable that's looking at what we got. All right, so you're seeing anywhere. I don't discriminate on the films or anything. So
but that's congratulations for that, because that's huge. If you could mute that, and then let's go into the menu. The menu is a film. It starts out where a bunch of, I guess, supposed to be high society individuals are invited to have a famous chef cook for them. Sounds super innocent. Now, when I saw the trailer, I felt I saw the whole movie. I was not surprised at anything. But in this rare occasion where the trailer kind of gives you everything, it still was very enjoyable to watch. That's why I tell you it was really directed well. And the actors were all great. That does not hurt either.
Yeah.
All great actors. Because you really want, well, I even though I know where this is going, I have to see it go there. And I thought that was great. Did you get the same feeling, Dayveonne, or no?
I will say, me and you had the same feeling because when I saw this movie, when I first saw the trailer, the intro, I was like, this is probably one of those going to be boring films.
Right.
It's whack, da da da. But once you actually took the time and checked it out, I'm like, yo, this is really good. This is psychological type
The tension.
film. Like, yeah, like
Tension
you
was
don't
good.
know where
was
it's
good.
going, and then you find more problems within the problem.
So
with the
Daniel,
film.
have
And
you
you-
seen that one?
I heard it being done. I haven't seen it, but I'm glad that you guys are saying what you're saying because I thought it was a film where it said the menu, and I thought that these people were on the island, and if they didn't act right, they became part of the menu.
Right.
That's how the trailer came off to me, and I was like, oh man, I don't want to see people getting eaten for lunch.
Right.
But you guys are saying that that wasn't the case. It was different. I'm looking forward to going to take a look at that.
Yeah, the whole film is the main character besides the characters is tension. Everything is about building tension throughout that whole thing. And it was I got to give it up to the editor and the director for really building that. And it wasn't annoying. There weren't like long drags. It just kept moving. It almost had like a movement of a play where it just kept, okay, boom, and it just kept going from there. And you don't see that often. Not in Hollywood films. No.
Correct.
No. All right, so the next thing would be The Nun. Now, I know, Dayveonne, you didn't want to see it. Interesting. I've saw it for years. The Nun is not a new film. They're actually working on a sequel. And I think that's coming out in 2023. So that's interesting. I've seen people cosplay The Nun a bunch of times, but I didn't see it. I can't say it's a great film. It's like a film like, oh wow, this could have come out like 10 years ago, or whatever like that. There's nothing new and exciting with it, but it does have its bump scares, which, I think it's good for the genre. That's what I'm trying to say, but it doesn't recreate the wheel. If that's, what do you think, Dayveonne?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm creep. I saw that. I saw people cosplay as the Nun and Comic-Con.
Right.
Saw the trailer. I'm like, no, because then you're gonna make me fear going into a Catholic church. You're gonna make me fear. No, I don't want to see this film. I don't want to have nightmares.
Well,
I know, or Dave.
Yeah, the imagery. There are some imagery that if it sticks with you, I could see it giving people some nightmares. There's some scenes. There's like what's the scene? Remember back in the day where it was like huge and tons of people were cosplaying it with nurses, and the nurses had like these bags over their heads, and it was like people got knocked into another world or dimension or a time.
Oh, Silent Hill?
Silent Hill. So there was like a Silent Hill moment in there. I don't want to give it away for anyone that say that. But for those that have seen it, there's a character where I knew what that character was. From like, oh no, I know where they're going with it. You're not getting me. Blah blah blah. So there was a bunch of I know where this is going moments. But I think for the most part, if you're home, some popcorn, I say watch The Nun. I think it's worth watching. If you like scary movies, I wouldn't run away with it
Okay.
from it. I wouldn't say it's whack. But if
I like
you're-
some
yeah.
scary movies, but no, I can't.
So
Okay.
before we go, what's the 411, Daniel? What's coming out? What are the rumors? What's going on in Hollywood that people might want to know?
Wow. Okay. Well, the 411, and I'll make it quick because it's a tough one.
Yeah.
That a lot of people are for lack of a better word, tired. Like tons of movies that have come out that didn't meet expectations.
Mm.
And Marvel is in trouble with that. Star Wars is in trouble with that because they make these films that were so lackluster. Like, I know as yourself and myself, we love the comic books.
Right.
And they took those comic books and they pushed an agenda. And it's funny that this agenda that they talk about, like they're complaining that everything is too white and the white man is this, right? So now their own white people are making the white men look dumb, like you know what they're doing and everything else, and then they're saying women are better, and they're flipping the script on all these films, and then they try to tell us, oh, well, if you're not straight and if you're anything other than straight, then you're phenomenal. And it's like, so people are now frustrated and tired of going, because the movies are about escapism.
Exactly.
You go to escape.
Mm-hmm.
But now when you go to the theater, you're going to see the same problems you see on the news. And it's like, you know, and because Hollywood is putting so much effort into this, that they overworked all the crew. They overworked the visual effects artists. And I applied for a job and they said, oh, well, you're going to have to work every day, 13 hours a day.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, there's only 24 hours in a day. When do I have time? That was so the effects artists are now like, they're going to unionize all around the world. They're going to unionize.
Wow.
And so it's going to be, it may make the movie tickets go up now because it's going to take longer to do a film. It's going to cost more to do a film.
Right.
Well,
that's right.
So these are
that's
the
an
things.
interesting point, because the go-to was to go to China to do the effects.
Yeah.
Then the go-to was to go to India to do the effects. Now, if you're in any of these areas and they unionize, you're happy because you're going to be rich overnight.
Yep.
You know, but then at that point, then why am I going all the way to, like, if I'm going to pay the same money, then I might as well just do it here.
Right.
There's no
that's
advantage.
what I did. Right, because now you see what I did. Because when I did The Matrix, I had to go to Australia.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I worked there for 4 years.
Wow.
It was a couple of movies that I did. I had to go to Singapore, and I was in Singapore for about a year or two. You know, and after a while, you get tired of traveling. I was in the UK for a couple of years, just to make that money. And and a lot of shows that you watch now, they make them in Canada. So
I heard about that.
You know,
Vancouver.
So yeah. So now, if everybody's treated the same, because remember The Life of Pi? I do this real quick.
Yeah.
Remember The Life of Pi?
For sure.
Okay. Rhythm and Hughes did all the graphics, artwork, and everything for that film. When they received their Oscar for making that film, they closed down 45 minutes later.
Why?
Yeah. Because Hollywood didn't pay. So they did all that work and everything. Because this is how Hollywood works. You go in, you go and all right, you're in charge of 500 shots. Okay. And then you do the 500 shots. And then they say, hey, wait a minute, because this is what happened on Life of Pi. Yeah. They said, the rain is going straight down. We want it to go sideways. So now you got to re-render it. That's free at that point because you're only paying for 500 shots.
Oh.
And that's what happened.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, so depending
you
on...
pretty much.
Okay, get it.
So you pretty much better off starting your own production company.
Yep.
Wow.
That's what I did.
But you know what, though? I think that'll help, but then they're always going to have to come up with another way around it. It's going to be union versus non-union, and then they're going to give a whole bunch of non-union people work. It's not going to change much. It's the same thing with the actors and stuff too. Because I remember becoming union, and then all of a sudden, a lot of the commercials, a lot of the opportunities were all for non-union. You couldn't work it if you were union. You know, and I get it from a producing standpoint. Well, why would I bother with union people? Like, you know, there's a plus and minus of that too, because you want the professionalism and then the knowledge and the wisdom. But then if it's just not in the budget, what are you going to do?
Right.
So that kind of...
Now you see on.
Yeah.
Because the independent artists, they don't have that type of money. They don't have that type of staff. They don't.
Right.
And it's very difficult for them to get their movies out there because Hollywood won't let it happen. But I would.
Wow. There you go. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is so. Where do you see Hollywood going? Because you said that you see Hollywood going bankrupt.
No, they're not. All right, they're not going to go bankrupt.
Okay.
Because they still have the opportunity to change. It's now everything is leaning more towards the independent market. All right. Like for example, remember Blair Witch?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, they made a killer.
The guy, he has the same name as I do. Oh. Daniel Myricks was the guy who did it, but see, I have an S at the end of mine. He doesn't.
Okay.
So people confused it for a while, but he did the movie under a certain amount of. He did it under a certain budget, and he didn't break $1 million when he did this, but the movie made millions. So now the investors, everybody looking at the independents now. They're like, these guys are making movies, and their movies are good. All right, remember Slumdog Millionaire?
Right.
Yeah.
That was an independent project, and look what happened. So it's going to teeter to the independents, and then once they realize what their mistake is, it'll go back, because they have the money. Right. That's what's going to happen.
All right, well, we'll end it right there so we don't end up messing with time. Can you guys give people your social media so they can get in contact with you?
Dayveonne Bussey on Instagram, Facebook, The Shamal Williams Show on Twitch and Twitter.
I'm just Flux Fusion Streams on Facebook, or you can get me up on Dan Myricks on Facebook. I don't have the other stuff yet. Not enough time.
And Michael 7 Michael, that's Michael the number 7 Michael on IG. You could always go to geekcaster.com, or you can go to GEEKCASTER on IG. Thank you very much for watching us. Keep supporting. We will continue to give you that sci-fi, fantasy, geek culture content. We've been doing it for a long time. We've been doing it the best. There's been imitations, but it's not the same. Thank you for watching GEEKCASTER. Let's go. Woohoo!